Okay, we're going to get started. All right, welcome. We kind of talk about this every year. I got a different outlook, and I'll get started into it in a minute. One of the first things I wanted to do is bring Jessica on and let her talk about some of the current events. So let's get that out of the way. And then once we do that, we'll get started on getting ready for Christmas.
Okay, so current events. For those of you that don't know, every Sunday we send out a current events email. It's been a while since we've sent one out, but we just sent our first one out last week. And so these are some of the ones that were in last week, and then also some of the ones that will be on next week. First, this is a story that Dad and I have been watching, and I think that he's going to talk about later. But in Arizona, there was a street pastor who was shot. He was talking about, they think it was an upcoming service. They just released the video of the shooting a couple days ago. It was at night. He was standing on the corner near the church, and it looks like it was a drive-by shooting. Police do not know if it was a targeted attack or if it was random. However, it is still something that we're watching really closely. Other things that were in our current events. This is local for us. A Florida teen threatens to shoot up a church in a comment section of a Pulse shooting video on YouTube. There are tons of videos out there from the Pulse nightclub shooting on YouTube. And this was a teen, I believe it was in Volusia County, so near the Daytona area. There was a teenager who was posting on the comment section of that video and in other forums about how he was going to shoot up his local church. Police saw this. They raided his house. They found no firearms. He said that he was just joking and that he was just making threats online. The reason why we wanted to bring this up is especially since we're getting close to Christmas time. We have lots of people all the time either write bad reviews or nasty comments about our church online. It's important that we take everything that we see seriously. Even if it is somebody that we know, we still need to take either bad comments or threats that we see online seriously, especially be monitoring your church's Facebook page, Google reviews, and stuff like that during this time. There was a woman hit by a car in a church parking lot. Again, make sure that your parking lot is, make sure that you have somebody out there monitoring traffic, especially since Christmas is coming up. You're going to have a lot of new people in your church, and if they don't know how your parking lot works, I know we have a giant Metropolitan Ministries tent in our parking lot right now, so it gets a little hectic out there. So especially with all these new people coming in, try to have somebody out in your parking lot, and it's really important that you have a rover out there. Next, a pastor charged after his son accidentally shot by sibling in a church parking lot. So the pastor had a firearm in his car. He left his kids in there for a second, and one of the kids got a hold of the firearm and shot his sibling. As far as I know, I believe that nobody was killed, that the sibling was just injured, but he is still being charged for that. We're seeing a lot of pastors that say things online be either arrested or attacked or have their church picketed. So that's just a warning out there to be careful on social media. And then the last thing that we wanted to talk about was there was a church that had rocks thrown through its window. And that's just a reminder that not everything that we talk about is a church shooting or some really big event. We see tons of church vandalisms every single email that we send out. There are at least 4 or 5 church vandalisms and then 20 more that we didn't put on there. So that's just a reminder that to have either floodlights or some sort of deterrent in your parking lot, in your church, and also maybe do some environmental design in there as well. Last thing that I wanted to say, I see in the Q&A that the chat says that it is disabled. You can just type on that Q&A and we will answer everything, and I see everything and we will bring it up. I will try and fix it from my end, but that is the current events for right now.
All right, Jess, thanks. All right, let's get started. If you were able to come to the conference this year, I kind of talked about this, and I talked about clickbait. And I'm going to go about getting ready for Christmas in a different way, because I really feel like that the people that are online tonight, especially those that are online tonight, and the ones that we talk to and the ones that I work with across this country have a completely different mindset on church safety. So when I say it like that, I'm bragging about it because I really feel that they are aware of what is going on in their neighborhoods. They're aware of what is going on in their churches. They're aware of everything that is happening in the country, in the world. I'm really impressed with those that really pay attention and they listen to other people that are online. I see a friend of mine, Simon, he's on, and I know Simon does a lot of online stuff and has a lot of stuff, material out there that is really good stuff. But we pay attention to what is going on. In fact, he and I talk about all the time about some of the people that we're watching out here that scare us because of some of the things that they say. So every time I get an opportunity to talk to a church that is really concerned about the safety of the church, they're already ahead of the game. They really are. But we still have to always be observant. Now, the Family Resource Center came out and made a statement, said new report showing more than 400 attacks on U.S. churches since 2018. When I looked at this, the first time I looked at this, I was like, oh my gosh, 400, more than 400 attacks on U.S. churches. And then I had to back up for a second because I'm kind of a numbers guy. And I really wanted to take a look at this because it's a little bit of a clickbait. And that's what we talked about at the conference. You really have to dig down into this. You really have to read into this to kind of understand, yeah, there's issues out here, but stuff is not being reported. Because I know that there's more than 400 attacks on churches across the U.S., but it's how we list these attacks, how we talk about these attacks, and a lot of these things like mental health issues that we have coming to the church, we don't even make police reports, and they are not considered or classified as an attack on a church. So when I see these things, I kind of like go, whoa, wait a minute, let's take a harder look at this. So a December 2022 report said 69 churches across the first 3 months of 2023 were attacked. Now, what we have to understand during that time frame, we had Roe v. Wade overturned, and pro-life churches like the Catholic Church were under attack, hostile attacks, vandalisms, and that's what we see over and over again. But it goes on and says a total of 420 acts of hostility against churches occurred between January of 2018 and September of 2022 across 45 U.S. states and Washington, D.C. There were at least 57 pro-abortion acts of hostilities against churches from January of 2022 to September of 2022. They also reported 342 occurrences of vandalism. Now, listen to this. 289 of these were against the Catholic Church. So once again, we see that they're going against the pro-life, and we know how they stand on it. So this is something that they have to be aware of. And plus, they're just really in the open. It is really easy to vandalize a Catholic church, it seems to be, more than anything else because of the statues that are around, of the windows and the different things like that. That's not saying that other churches aren't being vandalized. Jessica and I see vandalism all the time in these current events, and we're paying attention to it, but it doesn't seem like it's making these reports, and I don't understand why. I'm really kind of curious on that. But it went on to say 58 arson attacks, 12 gun-related incidents, 11 bomb threats, and 19 other incidents, assaults, threats, interruptions of worship service. But it was kind of like you were really, when you first read this, it really makes you think, oh my gosh, we're really, really, this is very, look, I point this out and I say this over and over again. There's estimated, the Hartford Institute for Religion Research says that there's an estimated over 350,000 churches in 2020. Family Research Center states 400 attacks since 2018. Now, no attack on a church should be minimized. Do not take this that I do not take every single one of these attacks serious. But what bothers me is the things that we're not talking about. And I see it every week. I get a call from somebody almost every other week of somebody that has a mentally handicapped issue that this person can become disruptive in the church. We see it over. We've just had one. We've just been dealing with one. We just had a guy that was, he was schizophrenic. He admitted to us that he was schizophrenic. He started talking about not taking his medication. We told him that you need to talk to your doctor before you say something like this. But yet he left and we haven't seen him. Now, somebody says they thought they saw him the other week. So we're back on watch because of just some of the things he said. But when we kind of look at this and we break it down, as I said, no attack on any church should be minimized. But 400 attacks against 350,000 is just 0.11, okay, on churches. But it makes it sound like it's like right in front of us right now. So this leads to the second thing that has been going on. We stand with Israel. I know that we do, my family does, the church that I go to does. This has really piqued up a lot of concern and a lot of chatter out there. Now, we've been watching this, and so has the federal government. There has been no known information that shows that attack is imminent, but that doesn't mean anything. And so this is what started to bother me about this because of just the way they were saying things. Now we've seen the pro-Palestine demonstrations. We also saw that there was 15 bomb attacks, fake bomb calls on on Jewish synagogues during their holiday season. So we do know that it is out there, and we take it serious. We really do. We've been watching all this. We are very concerned about it. And when you look at the headlines, and anti-Christian hostility reaching unprecedented levels in culture, government under Biden. Well, let's not blame it all under Biden. That's not even fair. This has been going on for some time. You know, FBI and DHS warn faith-based communities will likely continue to be targets of violence. We're going to be targets of violence no matter whether or not a war is going on, whether or not the issues are happening around here. We are going to constantly be a target. DHS issues advisory to church, other groups amid heightened threat environment. And like I said, when you read this, the next thing you do is you want to go out and immediately start putting up sandbags, barriers, all these different things around your church. But then if you read the article where DHS talks about this, DHS says we are not currently tracking an intimate, credible threat from a foreign terrorist organization, a structured attack here or something like that. But it is something that we think heightened vigilance is warranted. Right there, I want to stop it because I'm going to go back to this thing I said at the very beginning of this. Every church I know of, every church I work with, every church I've been around, even if it's on a conversation on the phone, you are being vigilant right now. I don't want us to stop what we're doing. But what we have to understand, yes, it's that time of year. It's Christmas. There are attacks. Outside these countries, there are attacks on churches all over the place. We're waiting to start seeing them happen. We know, from previous experiences that there's probably going to be one or two bombings inside a church this year over in another country. And it'll be against Christian churches. We know that. But what we need to be paying attention to is just what we've always been paying attention to. And that is to be able to help those that need help and watching out for the wolf in sheep clothing. You're not changing anything that you've been doing all year long. I talk about that Christmas and Easter are really kind of like our two Super Bowls in the Christian community. But as I say these things, I always remember those sports shows that where a team comes into the Super Bowl or a team goes into a championship, or like if you look at Hoosiers, when the Hoosiers went into the championship, Gene Hackman had them measure everything, and it was the exact same length of basketball court as it was at their place. It was the exact same height. There wasn't anything different. It was just another game. This is another Sunday for us, and we just need to continue to be who we have been for the last 6 years, 7 years that we've been doing this. We just need to be on guard. We need to be on watch. We cannot relax. We have to stay focused on everything that's going on. So it is a time to be concerned. We are in a dangerous period, but we're in a dangerous period because of what is happening around this country that can and will bleed over into the church environment. What we have to be more concerned than anything else is the lone wolf. And these are the things that I worry about. Jessica brought up the incident that happened in the parking lot. I think that's one of the things we need to be paying attention to. And these are the things that we'll get into here in a second. All right. We're planning for Christmas. Kind of went out and dug out, brought out some of my old stuff. We talk about this all the time. Simon, I know you talked about it also just a couple of weeks ago. We need to know the dates and times of the services. And the reason why I bring this up is I think that this is very important. And I've been noticing this more and more and more. If a person is not dragging 2 kids behind them or 3 kids behind them with their wife, all disheveled and everything like that, trying to get into church, but are 25 minutes late, something's wrong with this picture. Either they did not know the church times for your services, or they're just taking a hit and a miss and showing up because they're once a year Christians, or they could be somebody that might be wanting to disrupt your church service. But I just don't understand when people show up with 10 minutes left in a church service and want to start videotaping your church. These are things I know that we need to start watching for. Know these dates and times. You should have already met with your staff and your leaders of the church. And the reason why I say this is there's something different this year that you didn't do last year. Jessica brought up a really interesting point. We have a Metropolitan Ministry tent, a huge tent. Now, if you don't know what Metropolitan Ministry, they help the homeless, they feed the homeless, they put up shelter for homeless. They're a great organization. And we have a huge tent that we put up for them this year that has caused a lot of our parking to be it just disappeared. So one of the things that we have to be concerned about is that if we have the crowd of people that we've had before, our parking is going to be an issue. So this is something different this year than it was last year. Last year, they were not on the property or they took up a smaller space. But we see these things and we need to make sure that we're covering for these. What type of presentation are you going to be doing? I have like a funny story. About 7 years ago, we had a presentation of where the creative arts and their great wisdom had decided that they were going to take a saw, a spinning saw, electrical saw, and go across an anvil and shoot sparks across the stage. Well, one of our guys was a fireman and he lost his mind because they had not told us about it. We didn't know anything about it. And we had to prepare for in case it started a fire, because these sparks that we're sending across was hot lead. And it was one of these that if it hit just the right material, it could start a fire. So meet with them and kind of find out if there's anything different. I know our pastor is a lot of like a traditional Christmas with a singing of Silent Night afterwards. And of course, what does that mean? We pass out the candles, we help light the candles and all that stuff like that. We just need to know these things and we need to be paying attention to it, because there is a potential for some sort of flame, some sort of a mishap. Now, when we talk to our safety team, we need to start preparing for where they want to work. How many services are they going to work? We need to get with our medical team and make sure that they have enough coverage, because even though we might not have a safety issue through the whole weekend, we could possibly have a medical emergency. We need to make sure everything is up and running. We need to make sure our kits are in the right place and that they have the proper equipment inside of it. Another thing that I would recommend is network with some of your churches in the area, because if they have had some issues with somebody here recently, which I just found out that one of our close churches had, then we need to be aware of it. And if we can get a picture out to the other churches of this person or person of interest, then we should talk to them and get it out. The other thing is always, 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 if you can, include your local law enforcement. And that means invite them to the services. Just ask them to drive through the parking lot while they're out there driving around. Just make a quick go through just to make sure that they're paying attention to the churches that are happening. One of the things that we talk about, and I know that it has happened in churches, you go Christmas shopping, because ours is on Christmas Eve. We don't have any on the 23rd. We have all of ours on Christmas Eve. So you go Christmas shopping, your last minute, and you come into the church because you want to get into a church service. You don't go home and your church is loaded with gifts. You need to make sure that you're paying attention out there, because we do have vehicle burglaries. And we've seen it over and over and over again. A good police friend of mine did that one year, and sure enough, came out to his church and came out back to his vehicle and found out somebody had lifted a computer that he had just bought. So make sure. We're going to go over positions in a minute, but make sure you got people out in your parking lot. This just goes without saying, really seriously. If you see something, say something. And what we need to be doing is we need to be telling our volunteers, all of our volunteers, our greeters, our ushers, anybody that might be there serving food, serving coffee, any of those type of people that are helping with the church services that are an important part of these events. Make sure that if they see something, they say something to us. You should be talking to them all the time. Our church knows our safety team. I don't know of a church that I go to that does not know their safety team. We have gotten away from the days where we hid of who we were or who we are, and we've gotten to the day of where we are ambassadors for the church. So we're constantly getting with members of the church, volunteers, talking to them, asking things about them, asking how they are, their family. We're making sure they understand that they're a part of the team also. If you see something suspicious, you stay with that person. First thing that you do, if something makes you feel uncomfortable, is you call law enforcement immediately. No ifs, ands, or buts. You know, I will tell you, as a law enforcement officer, we would rather come there and nothing happen or it be a false alarm than to get there after something serious has happened. Stay with the suspicious person. If you have a suspicious person on the property, make sure that you're covering that person at all times so that when law enforcement does get there, you can point them out. But you got to remember your positions. This is one of the things that we run into of where people leave their positions. And when they do, that just opens up another spot that we could have something to happen. And always remember the reason for the season. And that is to expand the kingdom. Christ came here and died for us, and we are here to preach his love. But we always have to be prepared. Now, everybody that I've worked with has gone through training. Now, if you need to brush up on some of this training, it's all out here. Most of y'all that are members have access to almost all this that's out here. You can come out here and show your team. You can put it on a big screen TV and show your team. We put this training out here. We've talked about it. It's out here for you to use. If you need any of this at all, please go out, find it, and use it. If you can't find it, contact us and we'll get it for you. Positions. Can't state this enough. And this is one of the biggest positions during the Christmas time, and that is your rover. And you need to have more than one. I'm just showing one right now, but I can tell you the positions that we have, we're going to have at least 2, maybe even 3 out there because of the vehicular traffic that we're going to have on the church property with everything going on around us. Then we have to make sure that it starts out there. I can't say it enough. Somebody that is late to a church service needs to be watched. And when I say late, I'm not talking about like 5 minutes late or 10 minutes late or something like that. But somebody that shows up halfway through a church service and comes in, somebody needs to talk to that person. And it doesn't have to be confrontational. It's just like, hey, welcome to the church. We started about 30 minutes ago. One of the first things you have these people say, if they don't realize that they're really that late, is, oh my gosh, I got my times wrong. You can start a conversation with that. You can say, well, we have another one in another 20 minutes. Or you can say, these are the times that we have these, but start the conversation. Start the conversation. Within 2 minutes, you can start to see whether or not this person is a threat or actually wants to come to your church and worship. 2 years ago, we stopped a guy that came in 10 minutes before the church service was over, started videotaping the church service. We followed him outside and stopped him. I started talking to him. One of the first things he said to me is, are you going to arrest me? Now, we kind of call that a clue that something isn't right here. So this was right after the COVID time. This was during the time when they had a lot of people that were coming in and doing audits on church, to where if there was an outbreak of COVID, they could go back and say, well, this church was a COVID spreader. Because here at Christmas, they were all together singing Silent Night. They were jam-packed inside the church. But for him to ask the question, are you going to arrest me? Just took us completely by surprise, but it was in the first 2 minutes of our conversation. So right then and there, we knew that we had a potential issue. So we started talking to him. We found out more information on him. We found out that he had been arrested. We asked him what he was doing with the videotapes. He's talking about, I'm doing this for my mother. She can't come. We said, we're online. These were just things that we could see that this person was just lying. This person never came back to our church. Why is that? Once he was aware that we knew who he was and we were watching him, he didn't come back again. So make sure that you have your position set up. You hold those positions, and one of the big top positions, as I said, I just can't say this enough. This right here is some of your most important area to make sure that you cover, because if you don't, it'll come in and bite you in the butt later on. You have to make sure that you pay attention to this out here. All right, give me a second here. I'm just drawing all over everything. All right, one of the things I wanted to point out, one of the things I wanted to say is that I think we need to take a step back, we as safety team, and we as people that are truly have been trained in what to look for in the church, need to take it out into our streets. And we need to make sure that we're paying attention to what, especially if we have some sort of outside the church activities, or if we have church activities that are not like on the schedule, but are special. I know that this year we have some activities inside the church. I know that we have a church play, a children's play, some sort of pageant, things like that. These are things that we need to make sure that we cover also. If you know that some of your group is going out and doing Christmas caroling, kind of want to make sure that you know where they're going, what time they're leaving, and what time they plan on getting back. Excuse me. Because you need to be seen that they get out and get back safely. If you're doing street preaching, and this is the thing that Jessica and I was just talking about, you need to be constantly aware of your surroundings. Now, we don't know all the details. We've been following this. When it first happened, we didn't know that it was a drive-by. At first, we thought somebody had walked up on him. That had been the initial report. So we were checking it, watching it, paying attention to it. And now we find out that there's video out there that shows a person that drove by. If you're feeding the homeless, if you're taking food to the homeless at their houses, or if you're taking food to the needy at their houses, you need to make sure that you're accountable for everybody that is going out and around. We need to be the ambassadors at all time, not only at the church, but in this world. We need to be paying attention to the things that are going on around us, because we may be the ones that spot something that save a lot of lives. Because of the training that you have, you are the best. You all have been, I mean, every time I get around you, I am so proud of you. I just really enjoy being with you. I love hearing your stories and how you handle things, the godly way of handling things. So I just want to say, do it again. Do it again. Do it for Christmas. I know that we have a lot of services, so make sure that you kind of give yourself you pace yourself. You don't wear yourself out to where at the end of the night, you kind of miss something or you start to get tired. Don't do all the services all at once. Take some time, get a break, make sure that you come back refreshed and ready to go. But you are the teams that are out here that I've been very impressed with. Everybody that we work with, everybody that we talk to are just so far ahead of the game. Even when I get an opportunity, I just was up in Cedar Rapids, Iowa again, working with the new church, even talking to those guys, you could hear that in their voice, in their mannerism, in their way they felt about, and they loved the church and where they were going. You could tell that they were really ready and just eager to learn just a little bit more and a little bit more. But they were already started because they trusted Christ, they trusted the Holy Spirit, and they trusted God's will. They are ambassadors for Christ, and that's what we should be doing. And that's where we will not fail in this. So, Jessica, are there any questions?
I am not seeing any questions either in the chat or in the Q&A.
Well, like I said, all of our material is out there that y'all can get to. If you don't have something or you can't find something, please let me know. I'll immediately send you over the PDF of that presentation so that you'll have it. You can go through it with your team. We just want to make sure that you feel comfortable and you're ready. But most of everybody that I work with, most of everybody that is on this presentation tonight is prepared. It's just little things that we learn, we see. I mean, as I said, Simon and I talk all the time. I learned so much from him. It is just a blessing that we get to feed off of each other. There's other people out here that are showing things. Just make sure you're looking at the right stuff. I did a discussion a couple of, I think the last time we were online, I did one on, firearms training. There's so much bad information out here on firearms training for churches. Brothers and sisters, I'm telling you right now, this is something that really concerns me. And I think it's one of the things that I'm directly going to be working on and kind of be an active voice on. We are not police departments. I train police officers. And I can tell you right now that I see police officers that have been on a small department for 7 years. They qualify once a year. That tells me that they have shot their service weapon 7 times. And it is difficult for them to qualify on something that, to me, every police officer should be able to qualify on. So when we start getting really deep into firearms training, I think we have to be really careful, really careful. Anything, Jess? Jess, are you there?
I'm there. Give me a second to get to the mouse, please. Simon said in the chat, he said, wise words, Jim. Trust and verify the information online. Check the backgrounds of the persons that want to come train at your church.
Amen.
And then John Eve asked for a PDF and gave us his email, so I will write down that.
Okay. All right.
And,
good. Go ahead, please.
If I could just throw something in there for the children's safety perspective, going back to verifying people that come into your church. During this time, especially in the children's ministry, we always need a lot of help. And there's sometimes, and Dad talks about this in one of his trainings, how sometimes the guy that you've always said no to finally comes over and you let him in just this one time because it's Christmas time and you need the help. But for your children's ministry and really for all of your volunteers, be sure to properly vet them and go through the background check. Even if you are super busy and you just need one more volunteer, make sure that you're not slacking on that. And then Simon also said, Jim, should we be concerned about the trouble in the Middle East coming to America? Lots of chats about this online.
Yeah, I know there is, Simon. And listen, we could spend hours upon hours of talking about that. In fact, we even talked about it today because today is December the 7th, which, if you grew up over here, you know that it's Pearl Harbor, the anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor. But what really concerns us is what we're seeing in the country is that we're seeing the protests against atrocities that, I'm sorry, I just cannot get past that point. You can say what you want to about, and listen, we all know, and we don't want these things to happen. We never want innocent people killed in any type of war or anything like that. But when you sit around and tell me that it is okay to rape, mutilate, set on fire, kill babies, and it's okay because it's war, I kind of, I've lost it. So the question today, of course, because it seems like that once again, we in America are the oppressors and the Jewish people are the oppressors. Israel is the oppressor. There was a ceasefire on October the 6th. There wasn't anything going on and Israel wasn't shooting at anybody over in the Gaza Strip or any of those places like that on October 6th. So when this started, the atrocities that happened, I can't get past that point. So my point is, yes, there is the possibility of that happening. I think, though, if it's going to happen, you would, and Simon, I know that you do a lot of international studies and things like that. I would think that you would already see it on your church as far as surveillance. as far as suspicious people being on property, as far as cameras, pictures, cell phones, taking pictures of the church property, walking around it, the different things like that. Now, having said that, I'll go back to what I said originally. Lone wolves will happen. This is why the parking lot is so important. How many times do we see it when the lone wolf gets out of his vehicle? He's putting on his gear. When we look at the Muslim attack over in New Zealand, the guy got out with the GoPro and was putting on his gear and talking about the different rifles and things like that. He was outside, he was outside in the open doing this. When we talk about Sutherland Springs, the guy got out of his car with his tactical gear on. If there was somebody outside, there could have at least been maybe some warning. I know it's difficult to say that it would have happened. I look at the Tops Friendly Market, and the guy stepped out of the car and was shooting as soon as he got out of the car. There was no way to prepare for that. But we just have to be ready for those type of situations, and we do have to be watching for it. Anybody that just shows up on your church property that looks out of place, immediately contact local law enforcement. Let your team know.
Simon just said, agreed, Jim. I fear the lone wolf with mental illness difficult to predict. And I'm not anything else in the chat or Q&A.
I want to say one more thing to what Simon just said. I was listening to a church safety expert again that was talking about the Sutherland Springs shooting. And the thing that he said that bothered me the most was that he wanted to give maybe some credence to why this guy had done it. A bad childhood. He had been raised wrong. All these different things like that. He wanted to somehow give it that it wasn't mental health or just flat out evil. I look at it as demons. I look at the shooter there was just flat evil. That's just all there is to it. And here's the reason why I say this. Any person, any human being that can walk into any place of business, a church, and shoot and kill innocent children, women, elderly, that's just flat out evil. And we got to call it what it is and stop trying to give them an excuse to do it. We have to stop this. We have to stop this. There is no excuse for this, none whatsoever. And one of the things that just really, really sits out there is that these people slip through the cracks because of our medical system that does not offer them assistance or does not pull them inside and say, hey, listen, you're going to have to talk to somebody before we let you go to work. We let you own a firearm or all these different things like that. You need to have somebody to talk to. We just see it too much. The shooter in Sutherland Springs, there was plenty of red flags. He got through the system because the system failed us during this time frame. That's the way I look at it. But yet his mental illness issues, somebody should have been paying attention to him and had somebody on him the whole time. So anyway, all right. Thursday, December 21st, 8 to 9, it's members only. Anybody that is a member that has any questions about something that's going on at their church, please come out. This is just a Zoom call. We come out, talk about different things that are happening, things that we're seeing, and we just get together and talk. All right, our Church Safety Network, we're on Facebook. Come out and just read it. There's plenty of free material. And plus, like I said, if you need some stuff, please get in touch with us and we'll send you over the PDFs. But there are these right here that are online right now. All it takes is for you just to give us your email address and you can pull down the PDF of all these different safety things, trainings that we put out. True Christian Talk, my good friend Kevin Haggerty. He and I are on Thursdays, usually every Thursday at 11 o'clock a.m. We're on Rumble now. And you can go out, join Rumble, go to True Christian Talk, and you can see all of our material out there. There is still some of our material on YouTube, and it's really funny. Every once in a while, I'll be sitting on YouTube, and one of our shows will pop up. But we put this in a Christian point of view of how we should be looking at the world. And right now, as Simon pointed out, we do need to be alarmed and concerned with what is going on with the war over in the Middle East. We need to be concerned about the protests that are happening here. But what I really see, and like I said, if it was something that was big that was going to happen, I'm hoping and praying that our federal government has got it under control, because we keep our ears to the communication between the churches and what is going on through Google alerts and watching what is happening through these type of events. But we need their help also. And I'm hoping and praying that they're doing that. And if we see an attack, it's a lone wolf, and we're ready. As a church safety team, you're ready for it. So keep alert, be vigilant, do not sleep, do not sleep, give yourself no rest. If there's nothing else, thank you very much. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. We've got a lot of good things coming up in the first of the year. We're going to be up in the Panhandle. We're going to be doing a sponsored event with USCCA. We're doing a lot more work with them. We've got some really hungry USCCA reps that want to help us get into more churches. So look for a lot more training that's about to happen. So if there's nothing else,
Nothing else.
all right, dear Lord, watch over my brothers and sisters who are out here and understand the importance of the safety of the church. Dear Lord, be with them during this time. This is the reason that we are all here. Jesus Christ walking on this earth, if it had not been for him to die for our sins, but to come here on this earth and live with us, we would not be friends. We would probably not even know each other. This is just something that has brought all of us together, and we're here to worship you, to celebrate this time. And I pray, Lord, that it is just a great time and people get to know you better. People get to come and hear about the peace and the love and the joy that you offer to all, free. No gimmicks, and no, hidden secrets or anything like that, but just trusting you, confessing to you, knowing you and loving you gives us the relationships that we have and the fellowship that we have. Be over each and every one of these, be with each and every one of these churches that are out here, Lord, and let us just have a fantastic Christmas celebrating your birth. And it's always in your son's name. Amen. All right, y'all take care. Still there?
Yeah.
Let me kill the recording.